Welcome to the Imperfect Dads podcast.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Devin.
We believe dads care deeply about their family and kids,
but they don't always have a space to discuss what their life looks like.
Our podcast is a space for dads to discuss the ups and downs of fatherhood.
And how they feel like they're holding it all together.
Or how they're not.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. On this episode, we have an author, Randy Lyman. This conversation is a lot of discussions of ego, being in tune with your emotions, talking to the younger versions of yourself, shadow work, and Randy's new book, The Third Element, which discusses a lot of these topics. This was really fun to have this conversation because, honestly, I love discussing this and about the energy and inertia of everyday life and how you can be more in tune with yourself and understand yourself better, and how that in turn makes you more present and a better father, better husband, and better person, basically. And also just like one more thing.
Just start the episode.
Oh, my bad. Randy Lyman, welcome to an episode of the Imperfect Dads podcast.
Hello, Devin. Great to be here with you today.
Yes. Normally, first question we ask people is just how many kids you got, ages, all that good stuff.
Well, no kids.
No kids. That's awesome. Cool.
No kids. But after employing close to a couple thousand people, it's like having kids. It's not the same. I admit.
Yeah.
Still, there are people who are younger than me who I've been able to care for and help get through some difficult situations. So again, not the same, but yes, there you go.
But you've got, from what I can tell, you help people understand their lives, their energy, like where they're coming from and all that, which is, I have 3 kids. That's most of what my day-to-day life is going up to my 7-year-old and be like, all right, who are you today? What happened to you today? And let's understand your journey of how you got to this point, which is a good majority of parenting, I feel like.
And helping them become okay with their journey, because so many people are just unsure of themselves, and there's no reason ever to be unsure of ourselves. We're always exactly where we're supposed to be.
Yes, I agree with that. I think that realization, though, comes with age and experience, because I think as a kid, people would be like, you need to be more confident in who you are. And I'd be like, what the heck does that mean? I don't even know who I am. I'm like 12. Like, you want me to be confident being a 12-year-old? What does that even mean?
Well, even as business leaders, we want to be confident in a way that we're going to do everything perfectly. But if we can find confidence through a sense of calm and connection, then it's okay to make some mistakes and share those mistakes and work together with other people and still keep a position where we're respected and effective.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Well, Randy, how about you tell me, like, what's your day-to-day life, or what's your day job that you do whenever you're not having phone calls with people like me?
A lot different today than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm an author. I'm working on my second and third book, one nonfiction and one fiction. And I like to have structure and order. So I tried being retired, and I really like to have something to push me forward every day and a sense of purpose. And without that, I don't feel complete. Now, part of that's an emptiness within inside of me that needs to be addressed, of course. But
yes,
also there's nothing wrong with having a sense of purpose and structure. And that's what I like about writing. It gives me some flexibility, but still I have to show up.
Yeah. That's cool. What'd you retire from, or what was your career in?
Well, I was in auto parts and repair, and eventually manufacturing as well, and specialty automotive parts in the differential world of light trucks and passenger cars and race cars and such. And it was a very masculine world. I had 4 warehouses around the country and employees in several countries, and we shipped about 20 tons a day of differential parts. So it was a very left brain organized world. But as I was introduced to the spiritual emotional side of being human about 35 years ago, I started to incorporate those ideas into my business, and it really made a huge positive difference.
Yeah, I think if I talk, so I'm more like my energy or whatever is more beta male than alpha male, more creatively minded. And I think cars are actually hilarious to me, because I feel like I always have this like expectation of like, you should know how to fix this. And it's like, why do you have this expectation of yourself? If you show me an engine, I'd be like, yep, that's an engine. I don't understand how any part works, but there's like such a strong definition of masculinity of like, hey, you need to repair something in your house. Well, you should know how to do that. And it's like, have you ever done it before? No. Then why would you ever expect something you've never touched before you to know how to do perfectly? But it's this very ingrained social definition of like, you should know how to do this because you're a man. And I'm like, why would my gender determine my ability to understand how an engine works?
80 or 90 or 100 years ago, when we lived
Yeah.
on farms and we had to take care of equipment
Yeah.
and before technology, part of being a man was we had to know how to fix stuff. But also today, part of being a man is helping other men find a deeper part of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the funny
But
thing is, if you ask a man, well, don't you understand the deeper part of yourself? You're a man, you should get that. Well, no, we have to be taught everything we learn in this life. And I think we bring some things in from previous lifetimes. I'm a big believer in reincarnation. But when we're born as children, we have to learn everything. And every one of us has a different life path. So there really should be, in my opinion, no expectations.
yeah, I don't know who said it, but there's a belief that I also believe that like there are some things that you learned at a younger version of yourself that whenever you go to talk about that subject, you go back to that version of yourself to then discuss it. So it's like, hey, how do you feel about math? And it's like, oh, this is all I know about geometry. It's like, well, that was your 14-year-old brain learning it. Like you in your 30s or 40s learning about geometry would be very different. But it's fascinating to realize the versions of yourself in which you go straight back to like, okay, now I'm 7 again, trying to learn how to play kickball and I have no idea how to do it. And you're like, you're not 7 anymore, man. Like you have to update your definitions also as you get older to progress and actually like realize how things actually work.
I would agree with that.
But it takes some, I mean, yeah, it's because I feel like people would be like, I really hated calculus in high school. And I'm like, have you looked at it recently? And they're like, no, I hate it. And I'm like, no, you at 17 hated calculus. You might be able to figure it out now.
Okay, here's what I'm seeing when you talk about this is at 7, I was afraid to fail. At 17, I was afraid to fail. Okay, now at
Yes.
27 or 37, I got to at some point in time come to grips with I'm going to fail on some things in life, and that's okay. I can make
Yes.
mistakes. I can fall down and pick myself back up, and I don't have to worry about people making fun of me or me losing my position in the social structure of the 12th grade.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think, in my opinion, this is where like what I would consider elders should come in and help you out with this journey. What do you feel like helped you out with this journey in which you got to get that comfort level with yourself? Because it's very difficult for that to come from within or to come to that realization on your own. Normally, someone helps guide you through that.
Goodness. So my mentor and romantic partner for 3 years in 1989, Maria helped me with a lot of that. After being with her and seeing how comfortable she was with herself and making mistakes and just showing up as I'm human, I'm doing the best I can, and this is me, take it or leave it. That
Yeah,
helped me become more comfortable with making mistakes and not having to be perfect.
that's so. Even like hearing that out loud, it's just like, hey man, that I also need to hear that message because I got 3 kids and it's something I also need to. It's a very interesting balance to try to show to other people, hey, it's okay that I'm going to show you how I tried and then failed, but also that shouldn't scare you. That should make you like, I'm just trying to show you that I'm human, you know?
And something that I go into, I want to make a plug for my book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, hey, Randy wrote a book. He's here to talk about the book. Randy, plug your book a little bit. That's okay. That's part of this too.
Something that I go into in the book, and the third element is that people only judge us when we judge ourselves. The world around us is truly a mirror of what we think, what we do, and what we feel. And when we judge ourselves, then people are more likely to judge us. When we become comfortable with who we are and we become comfortable stating our position and just being our natural self, then it's funny, people don't judge us anymore.
That's weird. It's most of the time when I think someone has a problem with me, it's normally a problem you have with, yeah, it's just a problem you have with yourself that you project and then it gets reflected back to you. Yeah.
And those are gifts. Those are truly gifts, and we understand those irritations are gifts. But if nobody explains that to us, then we just want to change the outside world.
Yeah. Which you only have so much responsibility to what you can actually change and what you can control. And you can really spend a lot of energy trying to think that that's not real.
Yeah, I did that for about 28 years. I tried
Yep.
tried really hard.
I mean, I think a lot of times it's how you interpret or I think it's what I assume is shows that I care. Whenever I do stuff like that, I'm like, oh, I'm trying to change this for what I consider to be better. This must mean that I care and I love the subject. And reality is probably some false sense of control that I'm projecting onto everyone around me.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole we can go down sometime in a future episode if you'd like.
Yes.
Really, we're only experiencing ourselves, and that might sound odd, but when we try and change the outside world, we're helpless. The moment we say, okay, what do I need to, what can I change in my thoughts and my thought patterns? how can I change my relationship with my body in the physical world? Not as important as
Mhm.
my thoughts. And then
Yeah.
what all the emotional wounds do I have that I'm getting the opportunity to dive into? And that's for me, that's where the real power is. And I'm a physicist and an engineer with multiple patents and a successful 8-figure business person and a man. And it comes down to, what do I have an opportunity to feel from the past and let go? And for the men listening, they're going to say, what the hell is he talking about? I can tell you, after going through this thousands of times, the power lies in, what do I have the opportunity to feel and let go of?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a really big fan of Richard Rohr, Franciscan monk, and he's very big on like just acknowledging that like we all have childhood wounds that you developed a defense mechanism for, and here you are in your 30s or 40s, still living out or however old you are, living out a defense mechanism you created whenever you were a child. And how do you figure out how to process that? Because I don't know many things I did whenever I was that young that still should serve me today at this version of myself. But you do have to feel the emotions and just learn a lot of acceptance and grace for yourself that isn't usually taught. Or most men aren't going to be like, hey, how did you accept yourself for who you are today? Is usually not the conversation starters I hear as I go through my day.
No, and it's uncomfortable for a lot of men. And it was
Yeah.
uncomfortable for me 35 years ago. Today, because I'm so comfortable with the emotional part of myself, it doesn't distract or detract from me being a man. I'm not going to make decisions based on emotions. I'm not going to use my emotions to manipulate, but I want to be aware of them. I want to be fluid in my emotions, and I want to release anything that could influence my rational thinking. And we are seeing more and more great examples of men who are comfortable with their emotions, who are helping other men be comfortable with their emotions and still be respected as a man.
Yes. Randy, what do you think happens if I'm unwilling to process an emotion? What does that do to me? And what does that do to my body? And how does that show that self in other areas of
Health issues, relationship issues, out worry. When we walk into a room, and I'm speaking here from a place of leadership, but this applies to everybody. If I walk into a room as an intelligent, overly confident leader who has a putting on a facade, people feel who I am. If I'm talking to my kids or people I work with, or anybody, and I'm putting on a facade and trying to protect them from what I'm feeling and pretend that I'm more confident than I am, people feel us.
Yeah.
And when we have the ability to admit we have emotions, when we can start to address those emotions and feel those emotions, then they don't get in the way of our communications and they don't get in the way of our relationships. And at some point in time, we become comfortable enough sharing those challenges with other men or with somebody in our life who can say, wow, I've been through that too. And I feel for you, brother. Let's find a way to help you work through this. Breathing exercise, journaling, yoga, all these things that
Yeah.
seem more feminine, they help us
Yeah.
find our center. When we become comfortable in who we are as being a human with flaws,
Mhm.
then we realize that our power doesn't come from our title. It doesn't come from how I act. It comes from how I connect with other people. And when people that I connect with feel, truly feel I'm there to help them and I'm there to serve them, then there's power in our group, whether it's two of us or whether it's 1,200 of us. And when we show up in a way that we're calm and confident, that's stronger than any masculine facade that we could put on.
Yeah. I think water analogies and meditation usually go hand in hand. And like I remember the first time learning of like, hey, when you meditate, it's not a time. I think what we're taught as men so much in this Western world is to problem solve and to fix things at all times. And I think the more Eastern approach is just to accept and let go, basically. So like the thought of like, hey, you're floating on a river, you're trying to meditate, and here's something floating down the river next to you. It's a really big problem. Okay, now push it back in the water. Let it float downstream a little bit more and just let it go for a little bit. I'm like, that changes. Like, I think it's very easy to get hung up and distracted by my ability to find value in my actions and to think I need to problem solve and figure things out, as opposed to just like, hey, what are you feeling today? Who are you today? What is your energy today? And allowing myself to live in that headspace instead of a constant problem solving headspace is a different conscience than I'm used to in my day to day life.
But Devin, both are valuable. So when I'm
They are,
sit
yes,
down and
yes.
meditate, I'll have a piece of
Yeah.
paper. And if I think of something I think is really important, I got to capture it. I write it down. and
Yeah.
mine can let it go. And these are real
Yeah.
simple techniques, but they work because we have to be both in this world. We have to be men who provide and protect, and we also have to be caring and compassionate and considerate. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. If we
Yeah.
just knew, because for me, I was born in 1961. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. Caring and compassion were not part of being a leader in the 1970s. It was helpful then, but it wasn't necessary. In today's world, it's more than just helpful. It's truly necessary. And it helps us as men have a deeper human experience when we can show up and be aware of and acknowledge and share that deeper part of ourselves. Then we can connect with the men and women that we serve in a way that helps us really find fulfillment.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I think that's a really good point. Also, of I my mind still goes to either or duality. Like, oh, either I'm problem solving or I'm letting go, and it's like, no, you're both. It's like as I feel like the answer usually comes to is like, no, man, you're as much a problem solver as are someone who in your day to day life need to just let things go and know and be aware of what you can control and what you can't.
And that comes with practice. It comes with
Yes, it
practice
does.
and being willing to make mistakes. And I've always been very curious and been very optimistic, which puts me in a position to make mistakes.
Yes.
And after making so many hundreds or thousands of mistakes in my lifetime, it's like, okay, these mistakes don't define me and my actions don't define me. What defines me is my willing to look at the world from a different point of view and be curious and to learn and to try something new.
Yeah. Um, Just a question for you. As I get older, it is harder to not let cynicism creep in and to let curiosity die a little bit. It's a definite focus of mine to stay curious. What do you do in your day to day life to stay curious and not let cynicism take over? Because it's extremely easy.
I got this last weekend at an event
Yeah.
and
Okay.
it's a rubber wristband. So when I think a negative thought or I'm judgmental, then
Yeah.
I change it to the other wrist.
Okay.
And at first day, holy cow, I'm just going back and forth. And it made me aware of just how negative I could be. Now, we can't necessarily get rid of negative thoughts, but we can replace
Mhm.
them with positive thoughts. Oh, yeah, this sucks, but maybe things can get better. Oh, this sucks, but there's an opportunity for improvement. Or this person is really being irritating. Okay, well, maybe there's something for me to look at. And when we learn to reframe our negative thoughts and we learn to reframe negative situations, then a part of our brain engages and says, oh, there's a gift here somewhere. And then the optimism can grow. And as the optimism is allowed to creep in and then grow, no, we're not going to be Pollyanna and just think the world is perfect without our need to become involved, to problem solve, to learn and grow. But at least we can change the balance from mostly negative, which the news wants us to be negative, to more positive. And when I talk to people in town or all over the country as I travel, there are so many people today who believe in good. They believe in spirit and love, and they're not talking about it out loud. But that underground movement of people who believe in good and want to see good and are experiencing good, that continues to grow. We just have to look for it.
No, because I think part of the insecurity of being optimistic is I think most people think you're naive. Or they're like, oh, how can you believe in things? And it's like, why would you not believe in things? You exist. You should be here and you should be believing in things. I like, if I only exist to destroy, that's not like, then are you going to, then I also, in my opinion, if I destroy something, I need to then rebuild it and make it better than it was before. So yeah,
Can we talk a bit about exist?
yeah, of course. Yeah, go for it.
I look at my life and I look at the times I've been guided in the right directions, some of them through tough lessons to learn, many just through the gift of the grace of God to be in a better position. But I look at the experience and think, I can't create this. Science can't create this. We can't build this. We are spiritual beings on a human path with the ability to creatively think, to have compassion, to love, to feel, to cry and feel pain also. This experience is so deep and so far beyond our human mind. And we stop
Hmm.
for a minute and say, holy cow, I'm part of this experiment where God put a spark of himself into me. And I get to interact with people like you, people who irritate me too, but people who I love and people who are caring. And this deep human experience is so beautiful. And when I stop and I have gratitude for that, then my world changes. Then I have more compassion for others. I have more compassion for myself. Does that make me less of a man? No. Gives me a connection with the power that is bigger than anything in my mind or body or anything on this world. And that's how I've been able to find the successes in my life, find the healing in my life, and find better relationship with the people in my family and the people who I work with.
That's awesome. No, I think that's, whenever I feel in tune with whatever creative energy exists, like, if it's God, whatever people want to call it, then I find myself more mentally present and a lot more loving to everyone around me because I do feel connected to the greater conscience, whatever you want to call it. And it just makes me loving. And even if someone is coming at me angry and irritated, then I'm like, hey, you're worth loving. I'm going to focus on that. And let's dive into this because you are, and whoever you are worth loving. Some versions of you are easier to love than others, but you are still worthy of love in this talk.
Ironically, that puts us in a place where our thoughts are more effective, our mind is more clear, and our actions are more effective. So everything in the universe fits into one of three categories: thoughts and information, our physical body and the physical world in action, and our emotions. So when we look at the world through a lens that includes emotions, not only emotions, but includes emotions, then the other two elements are so much more effective. And we have to be clear thinkers and we have to be effective in the physical world, but we really can't be our best without including the emotional side. And again, for people who are listening and saying, that's nonsense. I tried it the other way.
Didn't work out.
I'm an educated guy. I still go to action. I still go to thought. I always include action. I always include thought. But now that I include what's the emotional lesson for me, then I become comfortable with that. And people see me in a different light. When I can show up in a meeting and I can say, hey, I'm not sure what to do here. Help me. That
Yeah.
doesn't make me weak. Yeah, that's
No.
showing a vulnerability maybe, but it still doesn't make me weak. People say, holy cow, Randy is authentic and comfortable and so strong in himself that he's willing to be authentic and comfortable. It changes people's perspective. And leaders have to find a way to test this out for themselves. You can't walk into a boardroom and try it out for the first time if you're on a board of directors or the chairman or whoever you are. We have to find situations. And here's a great place to test that. In our domestic partnerships and our romantic partnerships with somebody who is comfortable enough hearing where we're vulnerable and we're comfortable enough sharing where we're vulnerable and we're comfortable enough making mistakes. And if we blow up that domestic relationship, it was not meant to be. Same thing. If we can find a family member or a mentor and we can say, hey, I want to share with you some of my challenges and I want to share some ideas and let's look at this and experiment with our conflict differently. Experiment with somebody. And if you lose the relationship, it wasn't meant to be, but take those chances and make those small gestures and experiment before you go out and take a chance at work where it might have an impact you're not ready for. Once we become comfortable being vulnerable, once we become comfortable speaking our mind, always coming back to a space of acting from a clear, sound mind and reason,
Yeah.
then it becomes a more natural part of our life and we'll be able to step into conflict with more calm and confidence.
Yeah. Well, I think like, yeah, if someone's like, I'm going to listen to my emotions, people then assume you're going to be emotional about things and then you're going to make decisions that you didn't want to make. And to me, emotions are like, here's the inertia that's driving me to a decision. I don't know. I'm a very analytical person. And then I try to analyze, like, what are my emotions telling me about how I feel about this decision? Because they're going to still be there. If I acknowledge them or not, my emotions are still going to be there screaming at me, hey, here's how you feel about this. So why not include them? Because they're there. So just include them as part of your essence because they're there regardless if you care or not.
And if we don't acknowledge them, they will creep into our decision.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Yep.
something else I want to mention, which took me a long time to understand, is I tried to think my way through my emotional challenges. And we
Sure.
cannot. The emotions that we feel from the past or from the present have to be felt through our physical body in the present moment. Our body is only right now in the moment. We can't feel our body in the future or in the past, but our mind, our thinking mind, is always thinking about the future or thinking about the past or in a stream of thought. It's never in the present moment. Our place of observation can be in the present moment, but our thinking mind is never in that place where our body is, where we have to be to process our emotions. So no matter how much we try and think our way through it, and the ego will trick us and try and get us back into thinking, we have to find a way. And I share that in the book. In chapter 7, I share 14 different exercises and modalities that are simple, where people can use their mind to guide themselves through an activity or an exercise that gets us in touch with all emotions and let that shit go.
Yeah, I think the more I learn about ego and my own ego or id, whatever you want to call it, the more I just realize how deceptive it is and how much it doesn't want to be brought to the light. Your ego, I feel like, is always like, "Hey, I'm here, but don't notice me. I'm not going to do anything bad. I'm fine. Just I'll be in the corner." And you're like, "No, you're not. You're center stage, man. Come on."
And that's the game, is to be
Yeah.
a human body and mind while we're a spiritual being. We're a human being, and we don't want to kill the ego. Without ego, nothing gets done. Ego protects us. Ego is valuable. But it's important, at least it was for me, for my ego to learn to partner with my higher self through my intuition and with my child self, which is where the joy and creativity and enthusiasm for life is. I don't want to kill the child. I don't want to ignore my intuition, and I don't want to kill the ego. So we have to find a way to create that partnership.
Do you know? Are you familiar with like the concept of like shadow work?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by shadow work. I think it is because I grew up in church systems and I feel like I was always taught as a kid, like, you need to conquer what's wrong with you. You need to conquer your shadow. And it's like, my shadow doesn't care if I conquer. That's not how this works. And as I get older, it's more about the acceptance of my shadow and understanding the dance of yourself and your shadow more than assuming it's something I quote unquote overcome or conquer or anything like that.
Okay. Now, I'm, oh, I love this. I am a sane, intelligent human being. Now, my wife might
Yes.
get irritated with me at times and say, no, you're a little crazy. Okay. Well, that's part of a relationship. We always have
Yes.
some challenges along the way. But at the end of the day, I'm a rational thinking human being.
Mhm.
But the biggest power I have to improve my world is to talk to the inner child inside of me that's 6 or 10 or 8 years old or whatever that is, because that's a real personality. And this is coming to light more and more in human psychology, that we have
Mhm.
multiple personalities. And that inner child has form and function. It is joy, it is creativity, it is imagination. And for us to be a good architect or scientist, we need to have creativity and imagination. So when we can talk to that child as if it's separate from ourselves and acknowledge it, then we touch into a deeper part of ourselves. And now here's the key: when we touch into the deeper part of ourselves, it can either be a dark shadow, some pain that needs to be felt.
Mhm.
And that's the only way through it, is to feel that and acknowledge it, and to talk to that child and hug that child. And me as a
Yeah.
man sometimes cry the tears. And here's another one: sometimes there's a beautiful part of ourselves as a child that we were told not to feel. No, you're not
Yes.
that smart. No, you're not that strong. No, just shut up and be quiet, because that strength or beauty or intelligence inside of us make the people around us uncomfortable. So then we became uncomfortable with the positive traits that we embodied as a child and we still embody as an adult. And we deny that white shadow and we hold ourselves back
Yeah.
from being a more beautiful, capable human being.
I read The Internal Family Systems by, what's his name? I'm trying to look at Richard Swartz. And he's very big on that of like, okay, you're about to experience this moment. What part of you is experiencing this moment? Oh, it's me it's 7-year-old me experiencing this. Cool. Talk to 7-year-old you. Who were you? What are you feeling? Validate that version of yourself, because that's how you experience this, is through that lens. Yeah, I think he also did No Bad Parts is another one. It's just this radical level of self-acceptance and self-love that like the way our culture is built, you don't do naturally on your own. So you do have to have a guide to teach you how to just show yourself love, how to love the 7-year-old version of yourself that was scared of a moment and rightfully is so scared of a moment.
And something that's key in understanding that really helps the mind work through this is emotions know no time. They are bigger than
Yeah.
time and space. And
Yep.
if I bottle up gasoline in a metal can and I pour it out 20 years later, it's going to burn with pretty much the same intensity. But once it burns, it's gone. Same with emotions. If I bring up emotions from 5 years ago or 50 years ago, while I'm re-experiencing that emotional energy that was stored in my being, my body, my energy field, while I'm re-experiencing and releasing that emotion that I denied in the moment, it feels exactly like it would have been felt many years
Yeah.
ago. But the same with
Yeah.
the gasoline. Once it's felt, it's released. And people, and I used to worry about this. My God, if I feel this emotion and this pain, I'll be stuck in this pain
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, of
Something my
course.
brother told me, he said, the body is not afraid, or the mind is not afraid of the pain the body feels. And the same as the emotion.
Yeah.
The mind is not afraid of that pain. The mind is afraid the pain will continue forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And ironically, when we avoid the pain, we avoid the
You
emotion.
are. You're making sure it continues forever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's let's say like I have a 9-year-old, 7 and 3-year-old son. Whenever we go to do shots or flu shots, anything like that, I'm like, hey, this is only going to last about 5 seconds of discomfort or something like that. But what does that 3-year-old think? The needle in your arm is an eternity because that's what you think. So it's really hard to think that like pain has a end to it because once you experience the pain, pain can be all consuming, suffering can be all consuming, and to see the light that can exist in suffering is very difficult at times.
Get to that point. I also want to say that ego doesn't mean that we have a big ego and I'm a
Yes.
narcissist. Ego is just a normal part of being human. That normal part of our being human is to help us avoid physical pain. And unfortunately, it wants to avoid emotional pain.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where the partnership comes in, where you have to experiment. And for me, it took a while.
Yeah.
It took a
Totally.
few years before I got to a place where I said, okay, I'm irritated. I'm going to dive into this pain. And even though it's going to hurt for a moment, I'm going to feel better in
Uh-huh.
the end. And when we get to
Yeah.
that tipping point of experiencing it 2 or 3 or 30 times, and then we see the value, because the moment that we feel that old emotional pain and we release it, feel it completely and release it, love and beautiful energy replaces the place in our body that energy where that energy, the negative energy used to be. The love replaces it. And we experience that enough times. You say, this is going to feel good when it's done. My relationships are going to get better. My body's going to feel better. And I'm going to attract more wealth and success into my life. Sooner or later, ego says, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. No, I think because I feel like I was taught ego is like similar to like narcissism or something like that. And I'm like, no, I think ego is the part of your psyche that is trying to protect you and protect your inner child at all times. So you have to almost train your ego to be like, hey, there will be good that comes from this. And once you've not tricked your ego, but developed that relationship with your ego to be like, hey, good comes from this, then your ego is like, oh, that's fine. Like, I feel like I know multiple people who run marathons, and I'm like, you're insane. You probably had to train your ego and mind to be like, this is good for me to do and to exercise before you accepted like, hey, good can come out of all this, what I consider pain and discomfort.
Perfect point. A great analogy. I agree 100%, Devin. That's the only way.
But it's hard. It's also counter. I mean, how much of our day-to-day life is about comfort, finding comfort, and maintaining comfort? Pretty much all of it.
And the ego will fight for that comfort, even
Cool.
if it's uncomfortable along the way.
Yep.
It'll fight against the unknown that we have to go through for healing, and it'll get stuck in the prison of known discomfort to avoid the unknown. But that's where mentors and partners and finding somebody on the path of growth and personal growth and enlightenment, or whatever path that is, and talk to them and say, what was this like for you? And they're going to share, oh, this sucked or this was tough, but in the end, I feel better and my life is better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when we can talk to other people and find that others are going through the same challenges that we're going through, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it does, because I think suffering, I think at first can make you go very inward, but I think suffering ultimately should lead to community. But it is hard whenever you're going through what feels like suffering to realize that you have a community around you to experience it with.
So here's an interesting thing I'd like to share. So
Yeah, please.
in writing my book, it took 4 years to write because I had to go back through everything I was writing about. And one of the things I only was able to really get through completely about 8 or 9 months ago was shame. And it
Yeah.
turns out I had shame around my shame.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I didn't understand that so well, but I understand that.
When I got to the place of discomfort about even talking about my shame, then I realized something clicked and said, holy cow, I have shame. And as I said, I feel shameful about this. And so I just said, screw it. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to feel it. I'll survive. I've survived everything else I've gone through. And I have a great hypnotherapist who I share on my website. If you go to my website, randylyman.com, in the resources I share, this hypnotist has helped me get in touch with some of that inner child shadow work and let it go.
Mhm. Yeah.
Most hypnotists haven't done anything for me. They've been totally useless. But the person I'm working with is very helpful and has helped me to get in touch with that shame. And since I've done that, my world's improved even more. And I've been on this path for 35 years. It's not like
Yeah.
this is something we just get through in a year or two or 10 years,
No.
but every step is worth taking.
No, we just moved out to Denver area last year, and one of my aunts out here has a garden that she's been working on for like 20 years. And we just started our garden. And to compare her garden that's 20 years of growth to our 3-month-old garden, it's like, why would you expect the garden you just literally planted yesterday to look like something to someone's journey that's 20 years in the making? And I think it's very easy in the world we live in to assume results happen quickly. And the reality is they keep you might think you've dealt with something and it keeps coming up in different ways and you just then tackle it again whenever it shows up again.
Yeah. And for people who aren't gardeners, asparagus, maybe not everybody loves asparagus, but it takes a long time. It takes years before you get a
Yeah.
crop. And if you
Yeah.
plant a peach tree or apple tree or cherry tree,
Yeah.
it can take years before it grows to maturity. And in this world today, we want to pick up our phone and we want to find an answer right now, and we want to feel
Yeah.
better right now.
Yeah.
Emotions and the whole path of growth doesn't happen immediately. But I've said it many times. I'll say it again. Every step is worth it.
No, it's so funny you say that about like wanting to have answers because that's something I find myself feeling guilt or shame about. If someone's like, hey, what about this? I'm like, well, I don't know the answer because it's so easy to know an answer that I assume I should know the answer already or that I gain value from that. So it is a process to learn to be like, hey, if you don't know, just say you don't know. Like, and then go figure it out. Like, but like in the moment, I have some assumption of like, oh, you should know how this works. And it's like, once again, why would you know that, man? You've never heard this word existed before today.
But why would somebody judge us, or why would we judge ourselves?
Correct.
Because when we were children, we were expected to know, and the people around us felt shame when they didn't know, and we took on their shame. We
Yes.
took on their
Yep.
guilt. We took on all their traits. We didn't want to, but we tried to look up to the people around us, and we
Mhm.
had to put those people on a pedestal, or we would think, "Holy cow, my life is destined
Yeah.
for failure because the people around me don't know what the hell they're doing." So we make them out to be gods, and then we believe the things that we see them do, and we believe the things they tell us.
Yeah, I think one reason why I believe in embarking on this journey so much is because the air you breathe matters. And if all the people around you see you filled with shame, guilt, and self hatred, I think you adapt the traits that you see every single day. So if I'm able to tackle these issues within myself, my hope is that then people also are more willing to tackle within their own selves as well.
But at the same time, as we start to learn and grow and change, our circle of friends usually has to change. And
Yes.
I found as had more wealth in my life and more success, my friends who weren't comfortable with wealth and success, they were uncomfortable with me. My family
Okay.
members who weren't comfortable with wealth and success, they were uncomfortable with me. So I had to learn to love them from more of a distance, still interacted with them, still enjoyed their company from time to time, but I had to realize that their judgment of me had nothing to do with me. It had to do with them being uncomfortable seeing my success and realizing maybe that their success was, or their lack of success was because they held themselves back. And so we find a way to compassionately make that connection and move on to connect with other people, new people in our lives.
Yeah. It's, man, I hate how much of getting older is just learning healthy boundaries and where someone just doesn't support you in the ways you expected to be supported is also not a fun journey anticipated as I got into my like late 30s.
Well, you're still a kid, and yes, you are
Yeah, that's true.
maturing, and
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
smart guy, and you're very successful. But I tell you,
Thanks.
it's a long journey, and
Yeah.
we should never be hard on ourselves. So
Mhm.
to say I could have is a
Yes.
lot more helpful than say I should have. We can be
Yeah. Okay.
discerning without being judgmental, and to learn the difference between discernment and judgment is a big part of the emotional growth journey.
Yeah. I also believe in word choice 100%. So like the thought of changing should have to could have is just like should have is a world of guilt that I need to let go of. Could have is like, oh yeah, there's other options besides what I did. Of course there are.
Four agreements is timeless.
Okay. I haven't read that one. I need to read that one.
One of them is choose your words wisely. Another one is don't take it personally. And so those two you just mentioned, those are very helpful. It's a great book.
Okay, cool. Speaking of books, I know we've talked around your book. Tell us a little bit about your book, Randy. What is it? All that good stuff.
So my book, The Third Element, is a left brain scientist's life experiences and an explanation in a fun, easy to read story that helps people understand diving into our emotions is not only useful, it's necessary in order to find fulfillment and full success in our life. And doesn't have to be painful. It can be at times, but it is the success that we gain through addressing our understanding and addressing our emotions is timeless and so rewarding. So I explain how the universe is put together in simple terms. I explain the game of life. I explain that evil is only as powerful as it needs to be for our own lessons. And I share several of my stories about personal growth, and I give people a reason to hope and to have hope. When we understand the rules of the game of life, then it's more fun to play. The reason 4-year-old kids don't play American football is they don't understand the rules. And so they play soccer. I kick the ball around. And that's a lot of people with life. They say, life sucks. I tried hard. I'm smart and I worked hard and I wasn't successful. This doesn't work. I don't understand the rules. I give up. When we understand the emotional component, that third element of being human, then suddenly it clicks and like, oh, now I understand the rules and I can find success. And then people can find a way to have a deeper, more successful life. And that's why I wrote this. I didn't write this because I'm looking to make a lot of money writing a book. I wrote this because I want people to have more peace and happiness and success in their life.
It sounds like you had one way I've heard it described as like the first half of life is where you're climbing the corporate ladder. You're trying to have your actions lead to success. And then the second half of your life is where you're more just like, you know what? All that stuff was helpful. I got good lessons from it, but it's not the purpose of being here. So it sounds almost like you had a pretty strong first half of life of like, I was very successful. And now you're like, but did it matter? Like, but let me get into more stuff that matters, sets you free, makes you more confident, more comfortable with who you are.
And that's part of the game of life is
Yeah.
we have emotional pains to drive us towards success and build our character. And then later in life, we do the shadow work and we look at that pain and we dive into that and we find it more depth of character and more compassion for others and ourselves. And that's deeper part of the journey, whether we start to take that step at 30 years old or at 60 years old, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. When we
Yeah.
take that step and we set our intention, all the power of the universe gets behind us to help us on that path of growth.
Yeah. I think it's a Thomas Merton quote that a lot of us spend our entire life spinning a ladder, climbing a ladder, only to get to the top of it and realize we put it against the wrong wall. And that's how I feel like as people get older, it's like, hey, and whenever they start to feel the unrest, the unhappiness of what their life is, whenever they're like in their mid 30s, or they're like, hey, I thought this would be something more. And I'm like, oh, maybe you just put your ladder against the wrong wall. So just climb down and choose a different wall. And then maybe you'll climb up that one a little bit, realize it's the wrong wall. And like, it's the concept of arriving is one that I have to battle with my own self because it's such an obvious, not lie, it's an obvious perception of like, well, you'll arrive at some point in time. And it's like, no, whenever I think I've arrived is whenever I feel like I'm at the most, like, I feel the most like out of tune with myself.
We use those celebrations in the moment as an opportunity for reflection and gratitude. And through the gratitude, we can look at life completely differently. And then, as you say, just pick up that ladder and put it against a different wall and start climbing because it doesn't do any good to give up. Life doesn't get any better if we give up or if we look for comfort in a habit or a vice. We're
Yeah.
here to conquer challenges. We're here to overcome the obstacles in our life. And that's what is part of the beauty of life. When we accept that and we find others to share the journey with, it gets better.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That's really cool. How do you feel like most men react to this message? What's like when I know we've discussed masculinity a lot for this. Whenever you start to say this to other men, how do other men usually react to you? Just because I'm
Okay,
interested.
so the ones who I interact with once usually don't get it.
Okay.
But if it's somebody I have a relationship with and I interact with them 2 or 3 times, not forcing anything on them, just
Yeah. Yeah.
holding a space where the conversation gets a little emotional naturally. And I'm comfortable with that. And they become comfortable with that. After 2 or 3 times, then their curiosity kicks in. At first, it's like, no, this doesn't feel good. This is unfamiliar. I'm not going there. So as men, we have to be willing to go there a few times and realize it's not going to kill us. It's not going to hurt us. It's not going to degrade us. And so that's usually the situation. Women will go there once and they're in because women are more naturally in touch with their emotions. But for men, we're taught not to be. And naturally, based on how most of us are raised, we're afraid of our emotions. So it takes a few times before it even starts to feel safe, let alone natural.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember listening to like dramatic, emotional music in high school and people being like, "What's wrong with that guy?" And it's like, I don't know, I just think this is fun to explore. But like it's not part of a natural culture of masculinity to be willing to explore these things. So you do have to be shown this is safe, this is okay, and also this will benefit you a lot. Before I think all men have within them to explore this side of themselves. It just might take some men a little bit longer to realize that it's okay.
Well, the biggest part of my success, 80% of my success, came from incorporating my intuition, incorporating compassion into my life and communication and relationships, incorporating caring, and dealing with my shadow work, with the dark shadow, the white shadow, and with the inner child. And I was successful before I did any of that. I had multiple $1 million businesses, but once I started to incorporate the spiritual, human emotional side of this human experience, then my success multiplied 30 and 40 times. And I was also able to help other people find success and happiness in their lives. And yeah, the
Yeah,
money is great. And don't get me
yeah,
wrong, I love
it ain't
material
bad.
comfort. But when we can help our family and our friends find more peace in life, that's a wonderful feeling and it's a wonderful place to be.
Yeah. It's, I think once you realize what depth a moment can have and what depth a life can have, it is then feel like you're, not responsibility. And then how would you not share that? How would you not share, hey, there's so much more depth to this. How do we have a discussion which you can see how much depth there is to just everyday life, everyday moments and stuff like that, if you are able to see it.
And I just thought of something for fathers
Yeah.
and for mothers. Go back to when your child was born. Look how beautiful they were. Look how innocent they were. Look at all the hope you had for them. Now, they're the same spiritual being. And
Mhm.
here's the part that may be hard for some people to swallow. They're the same spiritual being as they were when they were born, but so are you as fathers and mothers. You're
Yep.
still that beautiful, at some level, innocent, caring, loving being. And all that you saw in your child, that was real. And that's still real today.
Yeah. Yep. And then it's just figuring out where has my ego trying to protect me? What defense mechanisms have I created? And how do I get more in tune with the beauty that you exist at all, which I very much believe in.
Well, that's the beauty of the work you do, Devin, is you help people see the world from a different perspective and say, maybe there's a different way I can approach myself and show up as a human that's going to bring me more success and more peace and help me connect with my family and be a better dad.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's, I think once you are able to, my hope, my belief is that for every dad person out there, whenever you're able to acknowledge that side of yourself, then you're more accepting, and you're more present for your family, which I think almost every dad we talk to is like, hey, I don't feel as present for my family. And it's like, hey, it's because your mind's in a million places. Let's help you get focused. Here we go.
And ironically, when they become more present, then they're able to do a better job providing and protecting. And when the
Yep.
emotions get out of the way, those masculine traits of protection and providing come through even stronger.
That's really cool. um, about your book, like when's it come out and all that stuff? Like, how will we
It
find it?
came
All
out
that
in
good
March. You
stuff.
can find it at
Cool.
major booksellers. I'll just say that because some platforms don't allow a plug through a particular channel. They can find it on
Okay,
my
cool.
website, randylyman.com. It's RandyLyman.com for listeners who don't see it on the screen. And on my website, I have a lot of free offers. I have how-tos, I have book lists, I have some tapping exercises, I have some things
Yeah.
people can get for free. So go to the website, click on the how-to, click on the book sharing, and join the community and follow me on social media if you like. But I'm here to help other people find success and a deeper level of happiness and peace in life.
Yeah. Yeah. What about do you know enough about the other two books you're currently working on to even give us like a little tease about what's going on with
Okay, well,
those?
it's definitely a tease. So the
Yeah. Yeah.
book I'm working on now, and I have to get back to it,
Okay.
finish up the final draft, is a story of a 23-year-old woman who moves from a small town to a big city to find happiness. loses
Okay.
her job and goes back to a small town. It's a very emotional experience, and it's a good read for primarily for women, but for men as well. And then the book after that is another nonfiction, which is The Third Element for Leaders. And this is all about my journey and how leaders can learn to incorporate different behaviors and exercises and programs in their business that creates a sense of belonging and community to drive better results and better profits from a completely different point of view. It's been effective for me, and that's what I'm sharing in that book, The Third Element for Leaders.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's so cool because I know there are more books about emotional intelligence, how to and training sessions for that. And that didn't exist 20 years ago. That didn't exist 30 years ago, in which you would sit down with CEO level people and be like, hey, just so you know, people's emotions are guiding them. So you should probably be aware of them and factor them into what your plans are.
Well, and also if somebody's interested in one-on-one coaching as a just
Cool.
for their own personal career path or as a CEO of a major corporation. My experience, it applies to anybody in a leadership position. And I'm happy to discuss options for one-on-ones or for group training as well to help people understand that there are new ways, not necessarily new, but new to the mainstream.
Yep.
There's new and different ways to achieve amazing results from a place of drawing the best out of people rather than trying to squeeze the best out of people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a consciousness shift though, because it's not how you're normally taught.
I agree with that. It was a long learning experience for me, but I'm glad that I was guided down the path. And any of the challenges I faced along the way were definitely well worth it.
And it's possible. I think that's why mentors, elders, whatever word you want to use, whenever you start on a new path, there's a lot that feels that you feel like you need to protect yourself from. And then to have someone looking back, actually, no, here's all the good that came out of this. Then they're like, oh, I can do this. It's all going to be okay.
It's going to be better. That's
It's going to be better. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not just going to be okay. It's going to be better. That's awesome. How I normally end an episode is by asking 5 questions, but they're all related to fatherhood. So none of them, I'm trying to think of any of them
I tell you
would.
what, you asked me, and if I don't feel
Yeah.
appropriate, then I'm not qualified to answer. I'll just
Okay.
say that. I'm
Okay.
not gonna fake it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, first question is this can also be from your own childhood as well. Do you have a least favorite kids' TV show? Like a kids' TV show of any sort or movie that whenever it was on or is on, they're just like, this show is awful. Why would anyone ever watch this show?
No, because I didn't grow up with TV, so I can't connect with him. I had
What? How?
very little television. We only had two
Yeah.
channels out of the three back in the 60s. I didn't have to
Yeah.
watch much TV. And then most of my adult life, like 80% of my adult life, have been no television.
How do you entertain yourself besides going inward at all times?
Well, I work on my cars, I work on my trucks, I work on my dirt bikes. I
Okay.
still watch social media and YouTube.
Yeah.
I can't
Gotcha.
say I'm completely removed, but I can't
Okay.
answer your question about a children's story.
Okay. Well, then the other question I had was like, do you have a favorite book or like TV dad? Is there like a fictional character in a book where it's like, who's one of your favorite dads in a book?
My favorite book is Illusions by Richard Bach.
Okay.
And in that, it's nothing about fatherhood, but it is about discovery of another way of looking at things. And I want to say something else about being a dad.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
thing is,
Yeah.
I can never understand being a dad, but I can appreciate some of the stories my dad has shared with me. He shared a story with me a couple weeks ago about on his a time in his life when he had to go on an ambulance call as a volunteer ambulance driver and a volunteer fireman. And a guy went to rescue his son, had a heart attack and died. So my dad had to go from the hospital back to talk to the son that day and tell the son, your father is gone. And I'm sorry you have to go through this, but your journey now from here on is on your own without your father. And that was emotional for my dad. It was emotional for me to hear that and to think about a son or a daughter having to go forward without their father. Did that father tell their child that day ever recently, I love you and I appreciate you and I may not understand you, but I honor who you are and I'm glad to be in your life and I'm glad you're in my life. So any point in time, that connection can be yanked away from us. That relationship can end through a tragedy. And I don't want to see that tragedy happen, but I want people to remember, express the love you have for your children and for your parents.
Yeah. Agreed. Next question. Do you have a favorite or a go-to replacement curse word? It's just one where, like,
Dang,
if you ever,
dang.
dang, that's it, dang. That's solid. Because, yeah, even if you aren't a dad, you still are in rooms in which you need to be professional, but something really pisses you off. So
Yeah,
you
if I'm
got to have a
around my
go-to word.
kids and I want to say something, I'll just
Yeah,
say dang. And people from a different generation look at me funny, but that's my word placement.
that's awesome. Next question. Whenever you're around like other people's kids or anything like that, has there ever been like a toy or an activity that you've liked to do? Like, kicking a ball around with them, playing a board game, anything like that?
What I like around other people's kids is to try and get them to tell a story or make up a
Yeah, me
story
too.
about something. And they love that because their parents don't want to hear the story. The parents like, tell me the facts. How was your day? What'd you learn at school? And let's get on to the
Yeah.
parent talking again. So I tell me a
Yes.
story and they hesitate and well, tell me more about that. And then their imagination comes in and they realize they're safe. And it's amazing what kids will share when you give them the space.
Yes, it is. And how creative they are. With our youngest son, our middle child will come in and help out with bedtime, and he'll always be like, "Tell me a story." And whenever she takes over the reins of making up the story for him, I'm always just in awe of all the creativity that can exist in a 7-year-old.
They have access to so much creativity that
So
we shut
much.
off as adults, but it still can be there.
It's still there. And then, last question: since you deal with so many, or since you've have so many relationships with so many men, so many dads, and everything, if you had like a piece of advice to give a dad or something like that, a message, encouragement you'd want them to hear, what would that be?
You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
None of us are perfect. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to pretend. Feel the pain, even if you're worried about what the people around you will think, because when you hold back the pain because you want to look perfect, the people around you are going to take on that pain in ways that aren't appropriate. So own it, own your imperfections, and love yourself.
And man, it's a journey to get there, but it's one that's really worth starting.
I agree, Devin.
And other thing is just like self promotion. If you wanted to say like your website again, I know you've said it a couple times, but yeah, just like your book, all that stuff. We basically already said it, but one more time for the people,
Thank you. And I appreciate that because it gives people an opportunity to find a deeper part of themselves. So my book is
Yes.
The Third Element. My name is Randy Lyman, Lyman, and check out my website for free offers and for connections and informations and ways to join the community. So I hope that what I share can help people find a sense of peace and a little more happiness and success in their life.
And yeah, pretty much thank you for your time. Thanks for hanging out for a bit. Sincerely, I love the opportunity to discuss this stuff and just to hopefully give men an opportunity to realize the depth that's inside of them that they might not trust is there. So thank you for rambling with me, going on a lot of tangents about the inner child and inner self. I love it. So thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome, Devin. Thanks for having on me. I love your work.
Perfect. Thank you, Randy. And I'll see you next time. All right. Thank you for listening to the episode.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Imperfect Dads Podcast.
And make sure to subscribe and rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to us.
The music is provided by the Wildfeathers.
And all episodes are produced and edited by me.
Make sure to tune in Mondays for new episodes.